Well, hello, school counselors and school counselors to be. Thank you guys so much for coming to my channel, The Inspiring School Counselor. I am sure that you guys know and you have dealt with, especially if you are in an elementary school setting, is that you might be a school counselor that has to deal with lunch duty. You are one that is written down on the schedule for you to go and help out students open milk cartons, cleaning up the tables, sweeping the floors. That being said, I want to get into some pros and cons of doing lunch duty, as well as just how you can utilize lunch duty as an opportunity to build relationships with your students. Because let's face it, even though we are school counselors, there are certain things that we just can't get out of, or we just have to pull our sleeves up and help and be a part. Because when you guys are talking about an elementary school, middle school, high school, you are going to have some duties that are not school counselor related that you're just going to have to jump in and do. And so with that being said, I'm excited to get into this with you guys. Make sure you subscribe and make sure you hit that notification bell so that you can be notified every time I upload a video. All right, y'all, let's get into it. I'm going to actually focus on the cons first, and then we'll work our way into the pros because, hey, we need to end it on a good note. So one of the cons that I wanted to mention is that it just takes away from your school counselor duties. As a school counselor, there's going to be different things that you are looked at to be able to do for the students. So doing individual counseling, small groups, lessons for students, as well as parent-teacher conferences that you might have to be a part of, 504s, behavioral plans that you might have to put together, just a vast amount of things. Even if a crisis come up, you're going to have to answer to that. Well, so you will find when you are doing lunch duty, that takes minutes out your day, especially when you are doing lunch duty and maybe your vision was to do like lunch bunches where you could get your small groups together. So that can be a little bit frustrating. So that could be a con. Another con of lunch duty is that you have to focus on opening milks and cleaning up the floors and wiping tables. And I don't know about you guys, but that's not the best thing, especially when you see some of these kids and how they eat and what goes on in the lunchroom. It could be like, okay, not my job. However, you got to do what you got to do. Now, one of the cons for me is that when I do lunch duty, that is usually the time where my second graders have related arts. And it's usually during related arts where I would pull out my students to do individual counseling or small groups and just touch bases with them. But because I have lunch duty during that time that my second grade has related arts, I can't pull them like I want to. And so with that being said, that's a huge con for me. And so therefore, I have to find another time throughout the day to try to get them. And usually it is kind of hard, but I try to at least make time. So the only time that I can pull them is during their lunchtime. And actually their lunchtime is during the time when I have lunch. And so that takes a lot of sacrifice on my part with me not being able to have my own 30-minute lunch, but being able to just pull my students in, my second graders in at that time, same time that I have lunch to be with them. So that was a con for me. And so like I said before, I would try to find different times throughout the day to try to see my second graders. Now let's work on the pros, okay? And I actually only came up with one pro, and that is it is your opportunity to build relationships. That is very important, especially if you are a school counselor that don't get a chance to get out as much to meet your students and talk to your students. And so this would be a great opportunity for you to get to know them, for you to engage in conversations with them, figure out what they like, figure out what they don't like, figure out, what kind of TV show that they like listening to or looking at, what kind of music they like listening to. It's just a great opportunity to communicate with the students, let them get to know you and you get to know them and build that bond. Me personally, I actually do not mind lunch duty at all because once again, it allows me to be able to talk to my students and get to know them. So now let's get into some things that you could do during lunch duty to kind of make lunch duty fun for you and fun for the students, as well as allowing you to build relationships with them. So these are some of the things that I have personally done with my students. And so I wanted to share these with you. So one of the things that I like to do with them is tell jokes. Okay. I love to tell jokes with them, especially when I walk in the lunchroom and they see me. They're like, Miss Bird, do you have a joke today? And so they enjoy it. I enjoy it. And I first started off with reading the jokes that's on the milk cartons to them. And so they really loved that and they enjoyed that. And now they pay attention to the jokes that's on there. And then when that kind of wear it off, because a lot of the milk cartons would have the same jokes, I actually decided to go to the library and get one of the joke books there. And I would bring that in during my lunch duty, and I would go from table to table to read them jokes and have them, have a good time and try to guess what it is. And like I said, it puts smiles on their faces. So that is something that I did. I also did trivia with them as well. And so I would, engage them in different questions. And sometimes I would just come up with things on the top of my head, or I would give them like math facts or something like that for them to do. So I'd be like, what's 5 plus 5? Who can raise their hand and tell me first? And I would just go from table to table to do that with them. And once again, they enjoyed it and they look forward to that. Another game that I played with them was the guessing game, where I would write down a number on a sticky note, and then I would have the table guess the number that I wrote down, and whoever got closer to it, I would give them school bucks. And so, as you guys know, I talked to you guys many times before about my school store. I'll put that up in the description, or I'll put that down in the description below, as well as in the card up above, so that you guys can go back and watch that whenever you're done watching this video. And so I would give that opportunity for them to be able to earn school bucks for the school store. And let me tell you guys, I believe they wanted to play that more than the other games, because, they were earning school bucks so that they could buy stuff. And so those are some of the things that I've done as well. Another thing that I do is I just sit down. There's days where I might not have any jokes to tell them, or I might not have any trivia or anything to give them, but I would just sit down with them and I would just talk to them. I would ask them about their day, how they were doing, what their weekend was like, what is their favorite toy to play with now, what games have they been engaging in, how is mom and daddy doing. I would just engage in conversation with them, and they would definitely engage back. And once again, it's just a great opportunity for me to get to know them and just figure out what's going on at home. And I find this to be really good because whenever I am talking to my students, I'm able to learn like some of their struggles and different things that they are dealing with. And therefore, through the conversations, I'm able to get an idea of what type of small groups that I need to put together. And I also get an idea of what students I need to start pulling, because there's a lot of students, like when I do my needs assessment, first of all, every parent does not fill out the needs assessments for their students. And so even though I might get a good number of students in my needs assessment that I can pull and do small groups from, there are still students that are not being accounted for. And so doing things like lunch duty, or walking through the hall, or doing morning duty, or whatever, and engaging in conversation with the students, give me an opportunity to know, okay, wait a minute, that student's name is not down on my needs assessment for me to talk to them. But however, they're dealing with this. Or, man, that student is an overachiever. They do really good in school. And so maybe their parent didn't feel like they had to fill out the needs assessment for them to get counseling. But yet this student is telling me that they're having a hard time at home, or they feel like they are not good enough, or they don't feel like they're beautiful, or whatever the case may be. And so engaging in conversation with them, I'm able to learn them. And so it takes being in a bigger setting like doing lunch duty to kind of get to know those students. So though you might have lunch duty this year, maybe you are a new school counselor starting out and you know that you have lunch duty, or maybe you are not a new school counselor and you've been doing lunch duty, but you have not been really engaging with the students, or you have not really found ways to build that relationship with them. Hopefully this video was able to help you to kind of just broaden your perspective and not look at lunch duty as, man, another thing that I have to do on my schedule so I can mark off and get back to my work. But hopefully you can look at it as an opportunity to just meet students, build relationships, and just make it fun. Most of the time, whenever I do lunch duty, I actually mark it down as like a whole group check-in, because I'm walking around and I'm talking to students and I'm building relationships. So I'm going to put that in my use of time so it can count towards my direct student services. And so that is something that you can do, you know. So I hope that you guys was able to enjoy this video. I thank you guys so much for your time. If you have not subscribed, make sure you subscribe and make sure you hit that notification bell so that you can be notified every time I upload a video. All right, you guys, I'll see you next time.